that I've started with my wife called Cinnamon Soul. Quite frankly, I could probably spend 2 sessions just telling you the story, because it keeps getting bigger and it gets layered, and things that go well and things that really suck. And so what I thought I would do this time, compared to when I've spoken in the past, is kind of break it into some things that I believe that are the fundamental essentials to be a good entrepreneur. Okay? So I'm going to take that down. So frankly, there is no excuse to walk out of here with at least maybe 1 or 2 things that you guys can internalize and think about and maybe use for the future. Okay, so what is an entrepreneur? This is a word that, honestly, when I started my first company when I was 19 in school here at the university, I had no idea what that meant. And frankly, I didn't really even care. You know, everybody will ask me, like, why, Jay, did you decide to start a business? And I guess there's multiple reasons, but I think it boiled down to the fact that I like to help people and I like to solve problems, okay? When I was in school, and again, it keeps getting further and further, this was when the internet was starting to actually not suck or kind of get better, and the whole web development industry was starting to happen. And so you had this really discombobulated connection between sort of marketing and creative professionals and information technology and developers. Myself, I happen to kind of be a misfit. I'm a hybrid. I love technology, and I've done some coding. I love finance and data, and I love, I'm a painter, and I love marketing, and I was a singer growing up. So I always kind of felt like I didn't really fit. And what sort of led me into entrepreneurship is it allowed me to dabble in all these things that I loved. And throughout that, I was always, really, again, it wasn't really about building a business. It was about that people had problems that they didn't know what the heck to do with. Do I need a website? I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe no. What does it need to look like? What does it need to say? How does it need to be built? How can we make it easier? That was kind of what spawned these ideas for me to be passionate, and started to realize, holy cow, I can make a living at this. And then it sort of continued to evolve, and I'm like, well, for crying out loud, I'm going to step out of college and have my own company. Again, was the reasons behind it like to make this ton of money? No. I mean, I think it really was based more on this idea of I really was passionate about combining the things that I loved and help teach people how to not be stupid about making decisions. Because there was so much and still is misinformation about what is the right thing to do. Golly, I mean, websites have been around for over 15 years, and you still get idiots trying to tell clients to do certain things. So I think for me, that was the part. Now, did I want to make money? Absolutely. I saw the execution-oriented focus, which was focused on sort of the process, which if again, little small background about my growing up, I guess, is my dad is a phenomenally talented information technology, software development guy that has been an executive in multiple companies, traveled the country, I guess, worked with Fortune 500 brands. Humblest guy you ever met. Grew up, grew up on a farm. So I learned so much from him and his knowledge of business and technology, and ultimately he knew and built software many times over. So that was kind of where I got that influence, and I loved it, and I soaked up every single time I listened to him talk business. So I mean, for me, people say, well, where did you learn business, Jay? Well, frankly, I was sitting there getting a degree when I was 10, because I was just sitting there, just soaking it up. I didn't say much, I just listened. So maybe that's, again, as I go into tips, listen. It's amazing how people that have more experience, they can teach you so much. I see a lot of entrepreneurs, and this is maybe a tip, is don't be stupid. Make sure that you get advice from older, more talented, and smarter people than you. Don't make the mistake of thinking you got everything figured out. You're going to go out there, you're going to get a loan, you've got this great idea, and it's going to completely flop. You're going to have debt. You may lose your house. Depends upon what you've done as far as risk management. And you probably could prevent a lot of that by getting good advice or good mentorship. So that was pounded into me. So, okay, fine. I got this sort of vibe of make sure you ask people that are smarter than you. My mom, on the other hand, was a piano teacher who had her own piano teaching business, just retired. She's, 62? She had it for, I think, 32 years, if I recall. And so she ran a small lifestyle business, learned all the aspects of finance and accounting and client service and pricing and profitability and all that stuff, and she governed it around her ability to be a mom that was around me and my sister and help, raise us. So there was this really interesting dynamic, and on top of that, my mom's like the queen of negotiation. She worked for one of my companies when I was in trouble. She did collections, she fixed receivables. I mean, she was a rock star. So she was like kind of what I call, my dad's more of the nuts and bolts, where my mom's like more creative, and again, being her background. So that's how I got kind of this collision of interest and ideas. Because again, it was, on the one hand, it's great to have that, but on the other hand, it's like I didn't know what the hell I wanted to do. So I had to keep kind of continuing to refine this concept. So anyways, that's kind of how I became an entrepreneur. Now, before I get into my tips, I want to tell you a story. And this is another way of illustrating it, because I'd say a lot of people can come up here and tell their big success story of how they did all this stuff and whatever, and who cares, okay? I want you guys to realize that I'm no different than you guys. I'm the same person. I've made good decisions, I've made bad decisions, but ultimately, one of the things and one of the fundamental ingredients of an entrepreneur is you have to persevere. You cannot give up, ever, okay? Because you're going to be throwing stuff, and I don't need to be doom and gloom, but it's stuff you can't even fathom. And you're going to deal with kinds of things and solving problems that you will never ever deal with if you're an employee. So I think one of the reasons why I say perseverance, and I'm so passionate about it, is that that's something that I had learned, but I really had to refine that. Because there were so many times where I wanted to throw in the towel and say, this sucks. I'm so tired of being an entrepreneur. In fact, I did that, and dang it, I got drawn back into it again. Because that's who I am. I couldn't deny that's the way I was. So the story I like to illustrate is this, and this just happened to me a couple weeks ago. And it's not meant to be boastful or bragging, but it's an analogy that helps you understand how entrepreneurs think, okay? When you're an entrepreneur, you see things and you need to refine this ability. It's like a spidey sense. You got to be able to see things that other people don't, okay? Most people are just going through the motions. They're going to a job, they come in 8 to 5, doing whatever, and they're just doing their job. And that's fine. There has to be people out there that do that. But the greatest entrepreneurs are the ones that have been insightful to see things beyond the obvious. So I'm this, whatever we would call it, marketing techie guy, and I've got a house that's built 1950. And my whole family is like construction PhD. They're all good at fixing houses and all kinds of stuff. So I've been dabbling and dabbling and dabbling, and finally I took on this whole idea of remodeling my basement, which was like crazy awesome, super difficult, took me like 6 months, but still I got it done. So this built up some confidence. I'm like, okay, I kind of can see now how this stuff works. And my wife jokes, she thinks I'm handy. I'm like, my dad's handy, no way. That dude's able to fix anything with like duct tape and baling wire. So for myself, we were getting ready to sell our house, which we just did. And it's one of these old garage doors that like pops up and it goes up, and it's kind of like, it doesn't even do an accordion. So we're talking like an old garage door, man. And it's got an opener and stuff, and it creaks and goes up like this. So we were getting ready to sell it, and the dude that was inspecting the house went out there, pulled the door, and smashed it. And it was all of a sudden on this angle, and it was just totally busted. And it was a mess, and we didn't know. And so I'm like, you know what? Let me see what I can do. And it was like literally, if I pulled it wrong, it would fall on me. So it was like very risky in doing this, okay? My wife's like, are you sure you're going to do this? I'm like, what the hell? Let's give it a shot. So I went in there and I pulled the garage door, and I got inside, and it fell right behind me. I'm like, okay, now I'm stuck in here. I got to fix it. So I started looking around, and basically, without getting into all the weeds about a garage door, but it's got the little rollers. I got to go up and down the little tracks. And I was able to get the rollers off, but I could not get the stinking rollers back on and get it in the tracks because, it was all bolted in and stuff. And I sat and I looked, and I looked, and I looked. And there was a moment when I'm like, damn it, I'm going to have to give up. There's just no way. I've looked at this for 10 minutes, and I cannot see how to solve it. So I'm ready to start, busting a window through the side of the garage because I'm like, I just can't fix it. And then something hit me. I was looking up at the tracks, and I noticed a little spot was bent. And originally I tried to bend the tracks with one of my wrenches, or my pliers I should say. I didn't have a lot of leverage. Okay, like, oh! So I took one of my other wrenches, bent the sides, opened it up, rammed it back in the track. Garage, like, worked perfectly. I like jumped up and down when I did that. Because it was like literally like, I could build websites, but hell, I could not fix garage doors. And I figured out how to do it. That's how an entrepreneur thinks. Just like that. When you're staring at something and you're like, I cannot figure this out. Now, if there would have been smart people in that room, I would have been asking their advice. I would have done it. But I sat there, I had no option other than to break a window or fix the door. I was in a jam. And I think that would be the other, as we're talking about perseverance, is patience. Naturally, I was not a very patient person growing up. But entrepreneurship has beaten that into me. And my kids too. And so, this idea that you wait and you continue to observe. And all of a sudden, I guarantee you, you practice that, that's what starts to happen. And what's really cool is it happens more often than you realize. And for me, the only reason I was able to fix that garage door had to do with that skill of waiting and being patient and trying to solve the problem and continuing to look at it at 100 different angles and not stop. So, anyways, there's my dumb garage door story. But it is truly, again, like I have a hard time trying to explain how my mind thinks. Because a lot of times I go really fast and I'm thinking stuff and I'm always like thinking really, really quickly. And the older I get, it's like it's going faster and faster and faster. And so it's almost like I have to slow down and help people understand how that processing works. How does it work when you're trying to solve really difficult problems when you're a business owner? Because that's ultimately, a big part of it. How many of you grew up or have parents who grew up on farms? Okay. So I would bet all of you, most of you, that your family members or parents or whoever had to figure out how to fix stuff themselves. Would you agree? Okay. That's what I'm talking about. That's that kind of like, it may not seem like it's an entrepreneurial skill set, but it totally is. That is like, whatever you can do to learn from them on how they think, I promise you, you can run any business. In fact, I would even argue people that have come from farms have some of the business minds I've ever met. Because they already come in with that DNA. They're like, oh yeah, well we got to do this, this, and this, and this. So anyway, that's really cool. And for any of you, whether it's farms or not, if you have, another tip I would say to walk away from is if you have people, Deb's given unbelievable connections and opportunities to get out there in the community, but do not forget the people that are in your family. If you have any family members that have owned a business or own a business, talk to them. Ask them every question under the sun. I promise you, the reason I'm here, this is therapeutic. I get to tell you guys to not do stupid things like I did. It's not really for myself, it's that I want to help you guys make good decisions. So use your family members that have been owners. Let me grab my other tips here. Okay, the other one I want to talk about is called servant leadership. So on the one hand, there's this real macho, like really aggressive thing that I'm talking about with being an entrepreneur that is required to have energy, whether you're extrovert